Hi, Gil Crosby back with you, and this lesson is on the framework that I created for DEI while I was writing my book, and the book itself is organized by that framework, as is this course. So as you can see, the framework starts with the goal of equity, a more equitable society. And of course, you could redefine that goal. As a matter of fact, anything that I am offering you, I am happy if you take it and adapt it and make your own tweaks to it, including the framework itself. I don't expect everyone to approach things in the same way, although having a approach that really takes into how do you create a society where there's less likelihood of prejudice? How do you create change that's likely to stick? How do you create an approach that's more likely to be welcomed by more people? Not all people. No approach is going to be welcomed by everybody, but you can certainly have an approach that's less divisive than some of the DEI training to date. So that's what I was after, because I already knew of the social science of Kurt Lewin. It's the foundation of my entire career in organization development, and Lewin had an approach that goes from large systems like the reconstruction of Germany that he influenced. It addresses the question of how to create a democracy that truly works, and what tendencies work against democracy. And dividing people is certainly one of those tendencies. Scapegoating people, whether it's based on race or on other traits, like the LGBTQ community. Scapegoating is a favorite tactic of authoritarian leadership and anti-democratic. And so these same tendencies, these same approaches that I am teaching in this course can help create a more robust democracy. And democracy is not something to take for granted. There's no guarantee that our democracy will last in the United States. And we have to be thoughtful about how we're supporting it and active. So the framework, as you can see, then it starts with the goals of a more equitable society at the top. But at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the foundation, which is Lewenian social science. And I've already given you some examples of that. In the next segment of the course, I will break down Lewenian social science into details, like what is more likely to make change happen and be sustained. And you can apply that in the workplace. One thing about this framework for DEI is that it applies to leadership development as well. So I believe, and I am currently doing, a non-separate approach. I'm not separating leadership development with my customers from DEI training. Both can happen at the same time if there's a unified framework. So you don't have to have competing departments and people competing for resources. The advantage of leadership development also is that leadership development should, as all change should be tied to measurable goals, and DEI often is not. There's ways to measure change, and that is part of Lewin's approach, is to be clear about the goals. Then there's behavioral science that's needed, that was lacking in the workshops I was in, the DEI workshops that I sampled while I was pursuing this focus for my life and for my book and for this course. And so there were no attempts to teach how do you talk about difficult things without just getting defensive, without just blaming, without just projecting. And so behavioral science has useful models for that. So that's the second thing that I'll teach in this course after the Lewenian social science. And then you can see the two branches. One is that racism is real, and it has been real. It continues to be real, and there's examples of how it's real today. And obviously, we need to take action to change that. And also, the history of the United States, certainly, racism has played a huge role, as has sexism, as has other forms of prejudice. And all of that, again, runs counter to having a strong democracy. So it's time to cut that crap out. But we have to be willing to examine it with some objectivity, and we have to be honest about our history, which has great triumphant moments, but also has some obvious ugliness like slavery. An accurate look at history is part of acknowledging the reality of racism in our culture. And then at the current conditions, the playing field is not even, and I will attempt to make that clear using objective information. All prejudice begets prejudice. So if you are for instance, a man who wants social justice for your ethnic group, but you also think that women should be kept in the home, even if they'd rather be in the workplace, I mean, the woman should get to choose, then you are saying one kind of prejudice is okay, even if you're against another, and that is going to backfire in the long run. You have to take a stand against all prejudice in order to help eliminate it in society. On the other side of this graphic, you will see that not all things are about racism. And so I certainly was in one course in particular where everything that got said or done was looked at through the lens of if you were pale-skinned like I am, that you must be defending racism, you must be being racist. And to even ask, what are the intentions of this course, was seen as a racist activity. And so, of course, not all things, not all tensions, not all conflicts are about racism. So it helps to have some understanding of conflict and of yourself and of your reactions to situations and of all the other kinds of conflicts that can come up that don't have to do with prejudice. And so that's what that section is about. Finally, that brings us to pursuing the goal through effective education. And again, Lewin helps guide the way on how to help people consider different ways of looking at things. Certainly if they're holding a belief like their group is better than others, which is not a scientifically based belief. It is possible, if you do education the right way, for people to reconsider and shift their beliefs. It doesn't come from forcing people or lecturing at them or shaming them. They're more likely just to dig in to their beliefs. Even more important is knowing how to lead social action, implement social action, in order to create change today to make the society that we live in stronger and better for the future. I look forward to talking to you in the next session. Take care.